This is more Doug DeMuro, and today I am going to give you a car price market report using some recent sales on Cars and Bids, my new car auction website. I did one of these a few weeks ago and people really loved it. I had a lot of people ask for one every week. I'm probably not going to do it anywhere near that often, but I will try to periodically provide my commentary on some recent sales on Cars and Bids and some no sales and some car market trends as I see them. I've always enjoyed talking car market, what's going up in value, what's going down, what do I see in the future, whatever. So this is fun. So here goes. Okay, so first, a brief overview. Cars and Bids, if you don't know, is my new car auction website for modern enthusiast cars at carsandbids.com, and we have live auctions of really cool cars from the modern era, 80s, 90s, 2000s and up. It's just an amazing and varied group of cars. Right now on the site we have like this totally unmodified Fox body Mustang GT with 14,000 miles and the last Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4 made for the USA, and a first-gen VW GTI with no reserve, and Hoovies Aston Martin DB7 with no reserve. Anyway, it's just a great place, a lot of cool cars that are constantly being auctioned live. So let's talk about some big recent sales and some of my thoughts. There's been a lot to cover since my last video. Okay, so one big one, sold a 1991 BMW M5 for $20,222. This was a big one for me because I reviewed this car on my main channel in conjunction with it going live for sale on Cars and Bids, and it brought huge traffic as a result to the listing. Absolutely insane, huge interest. I know the seller was very happy with the result. The buyer should be too, because he's getting a great car. I know because I drove it around. And these M5s are going up in value and they'll continue to increase. This is something cool we do on Cars and Bids, a reminder to sellers. If a really cool car comes in that I want to review, I will review it and make that review go live in conjunction with the auction at the same time, which will obviously bring way more traffic to your listing. So this is a possibility if you sell a car with us. Right now, it's probably only limited to Southern California due to the pandemic, but I do plan on expanding it nationwide when I can get on a plane again. By the way, this car also shows the value of good photos. Good photos sell cars, period. Photos were incredible. They definitely helped the car here, and I think they helped get it more money. Okay, next big one was this 1995 Ferrari F355, which we sold for $77,000. This was a big one. I really wanted it to sell. Manual transmission, red, 355 coupe with a recent major service, which is a big deal for these. This one had 34,000 miles, which is kind of on the high side for a 355, but everything else was great. This sold for $77,000. This is good money for it. I remember just a few years, everyone was terrified of 355s because it's such a maintenance and repair nightmare. It is pretty unreliable, but people are starting to gravitate towards these again simply because they are so beautiful. And I think what's happening is a different type of buyer is starting to get into the 355 world. People who want a very beautiful Ferrari, who have much larger budgets, but who are seeing how gorgeous this car is. And they don't care so much about some of the problems that this car has. They're willing to fix them because of its value. So while this car was not that long ago just kind of a used Ferrari, it's starting to become desired by a different set who's willing to spend money to really address the problems. These problems don't matter as much to some of these people. And I think 355s are going to continue to go way up, just like Dinos. We're going to regret not buying them now when you could get one like this for only $77,000. Okay, next one, 2006 Aston Martin V8 Vantage, sold for $34,750. This is a 6-speed manual car. It had higher miles, 56,500, but these Astons are just so cool. They are so cool for the money. I own one of these. Mine also had higher miles, and for the price, it's truly hard to beat this car. You are paying Toyota Camry money to have an Aston Martin. It's just great to see it. And for this price, it was a totally fair deal all around. These aren't really going up in value. In fact, they're certainly going down, although not really very fast anymore. They've kind of plateaued in the mid to low 30s for high-mile cars. And in my experience, it's a fairly reliable way to get into an exotic car. My V8 Vantage had some hiccups right when I first got it, but we addressed them, and then I drove it 18,000 miles in a year. 34 states, Canada, DC. I have a picture in North Dakota with my V8 Vantage next to a bison. It was so cool. And the car never really missed a beat. For an exotic car to pay 34 grand and have a good one, that is pretty cool. Next one, we had a sale of a 2002 Porsche 996 Turbo. This is a manual transmission car, 52,000 miles. It sold for $50,500. It's big money for one of these. I owned one of these back in 2012 with about 70,000 miles. I sold it for 34 grand. So this market is going up, and this sale is clearly reflective of that. I actually did a video earlier this week about the 996 Turbo where I was saying you could get a nice one in the 45 to 50 range, and then this one sold for 50,500, almost 53 with our commission. So clearly, maybe I was a little under. These are really starting to go up. In this case, I think the seller did do a little bit better than the buyer. The car brought more money than I expected. However, again, these are going up in value. They offer an enormous amount of performance for the money. They're still way cheaper than 997 and 993 turbos. And so I think that 996 turbos will continue to rise, at least slowly, over the next few years. And I think if there is any, oh, this person overpaid a little bit, I think in 3-4 years, it won't seem like that at all. And at this point, just buy a nice one. It will make financial sense relatively soon, and you certainly won't lose on it. Okay, next up, one I absolutely adore. We had a Peugeot 205 GTI sell on the site a week or two ago. This one was really insanely nice. The condition was fantastic. The interior was amazing. Miles were low, but truthfully, I accepted it without even really checking the reserve because I just wanted a 205 GTI on the site. But it did sell. It brought $17,000. I don't really know what the market is on these. They don't really sell that often in North America, but I'm just glad we had the chance to be the marketplace for such a nice one. Next up, another big sale, this 1985 Toyota Supra. This is one I'm really proud of. This car sold on a competitor's website about a year ago for $14,000. The seller bought it, did some work to it, drove it 1,000 miles, and it sold on Cars and Bids for $21,000. That's huge money for an 85 Supra. But this car is just so cool. For one thing, it had a 2JZ engine swap. But it's not just that, it was just super cleanly modified. I'm not a big fan of modified cars, but this one just looked fantastic. It was tremendously well done, really nice paint finish, really cool wheels and wheel arches. And even me, not that into mods, I'm hugely into this car, and I'm thrilled we could bring more money than any other site in our infancy, basically 6 weeks into launching, and that we aren't just a place to sell, recent cars or unmodified cars or Porsches or whatever, stuff that's a little easier, but also we can make big money selling Japanese modified specialty cars like this. It's pretty cool to see. Okay, so those are a few of the big highlights. Now let's move on to some quick takes, some other sales, some no sales. Okay, we sold a 2019 Honda Civic Type R, just 2,700 miles for $32,000. This was our second Civic Type R sale, and both of them went to the same buyer. He put in a bunch of bids to win them both, so he's clearly into this car, and we're establishing ourselves maybe as a place to sell Civic Type Rs. The six-wheeled G-Wagon. This is a 2005 G55 AMG converted into an amazingly accurate replica of a G-Wagon 6x6. It didn't sell, no surprise. I had no idea how to price this thing, what reserve to give to it, and I just kind of gave the seller whatever he wanted. I just didn't know. I had no clue, but it got up to $167,000, which I think is real money for this car, and I'm proud we were able to get that high, but again, I have no clue where the market is. This might be the only one that exists. Can't talk about the last few weeks without talking about this SL55 AMG, which sold for just under $25,000. This car was at like $18,000 with a minute to go, and I was really nervous it wouldn't sell. And then it had a 22-minute bidding war with dozens of bids back and forth. Our longest bidding war yet, until the buyer ultimately prevailed. It was incredibly fun to watch. I'm happy for everyone involved. If you haven't watched one of our bidding wars near the end, you definitely should. Obviously, everyone is happy. The seller for getting more money, the buyer for getting a cool car. It was nice to see. Next up, Hoovies Camaro sold for $11,479. This is a 1993 Z28. It's big money for an automatic Camaro, but there are two big factors at play here for why it went for this. One was great photos. Hoovie took and takes fantastic pictures of his cars. It really helps to sell them. The other was excellent recent work. Hoovie kind of rescued this car, I think, in like a barn find situation, did a ton of work to it to get it into nice shape, and I'm sure that appealed to the buyer. And obviously Hoovie promoting it played a role too, but I'm very proud of this sale. It was good money for a Camaro. Next one, Lotus Elan. We just sold a 1991 Lotus Elan, big sale. This one went for $12,750. This is one of the ones I was most excited about. This came into us, it was a one-owner car. The guy bought it new, a 91 Elan 30 years ago. He had it 30 years and he decided to end his story with this car with us, which I just think is like the coolest thing, and it just feels so special. Now, I had no idea how to price this car, what reserve to give this guy. There are no one-owner Elan comps out there. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the last one-owner Elans in existence, and it was certainly one of the nicest, which was another thing. A lot of these Elans became kind of deferred maintenance cases, and a lot of stuff broke, but this was a really nice car in really nice shape. But we did come to a good reserve. It sold for $12,750, which is a good number. You're unlikely to find another Elan like this, so I wouldn't use this price as an indicator of the market for these. They're usually a lot cheaper than this, but clearly someone paid up to get a fantastic car, which I have no doubt that this is. Last up, we had a Lexus RCF Track Edition on the site earlier this week, which no sailed at $75,000. This was another one where it was really hard to figure out what it was worth. Not many Track Editions have sold on the used market, but it just didn't get there. And it was kind of in the middle of a day of slow sales. We got some comments, oh, nothing is selling. It happens. Some days everything sells, literally everything. Some days are slow. We're still kind of fine-tuning exactly what cars our viewers want to see, what generates the most interest. Also on that day, we made several deals off-site on sales that fell through, so that day was not completely lost. But mostly our sale rate is very good, well over 70%. We're selling a lot of the stuff that comes on the site, and it's been very exciting to watch everything sell or not sell or have bidding wars or whatever. It's all been super interesting. Next up, two other sales I want to highlight for the same reason. One, this 2015 Polaris Slingshot sold for $13,000, which frankly is a lot more than I thought it would go for. I don't really know the market on these at all, but that's what it brought. Also, check out this 1997 Lexus SC400 sold for almost $7,000. Both of these were no reserve cars, and one of the things I am finding that's surprising me actually is that no reserve cars, if they're good, can really generate a lot of interest. People see no reserve, they know it's selling, and so they get really excited. So that Slingshot sold, and we got like 6 more Slingshots submitted to us. People are like, I want mine to sell for that price. Apparently it was high. I certainly wouldn't tell everyone to go no reserve. It is certainly a risky proposition. It may not end well, but generally speaking, I have found that the excitement, the number of bids, the number of comments around these no reserve auctions for cars that obviously are going to generate a lot of interest have pretty much done well. So that's a wrap up of some recent sales on Cars and Bids. Now come list your car for sale with us. Generally speaking, I am thrilled about Cars and Bids so far, about the cars we've sold. We are part of the car buying and selling market of this discussion, and that's such a cool thing. And I am excited to be back here in a few more weeks discussing some more results. See ya.